part of my remit was to fly the flag for social science research around food and think about that in terms of practitioners. So I'm not going to be prescriptive about it, but hopefully there's some things in there that might come out in terms of some of the work that I've done and some of the ways I approach research. So brief outline what I'm going to talk about. So some short opening remarks, and then I'm going to share what my own research diagram thingy for what I think about in terms of critical sustainability studies that hopefully might spur some thinking about how we might tie some of these things together that we've been talking about today. I want to briefly share a current project and some results and analysis from that project, and then some further possible insights and some questions and possible areas of collaboration we might want to think about. So social science and sustainability, right, some general remarks. We want to work to understand our social worlds and the social scientists out there with new and improved impact, right? So it's about making impact on the world, trying to change it in different ways. We can think about impact in very different, interesting manners, and I'm okay with that. Although, anyway, we can talk about and critique impact for a long time. But for me, it's about how these social worlds are created by and created through material worlds, right? So what's the relationship between our social worlds, who we are, how we're connected, and the materialities that go along with those things. So this is about understanding homo socio materialis, right? So the idea of how we might understand that, okay? Or what we do as humans and how we relate to the environment. And we'll get to the sustainability part in a second. So, and of course, this understanding is in service of making the world a better place, right? So not just to understand it, but to change it and make it better. So we think about social science and sustainability. We want to think about social science for sustainability. And this is my opinion here. What might this look like? So it requires that we're critical and we ask hard and very difficult questions and we're reflective about our own practice, okay? And what we think about and how we go about doing that. We're reflective about green markets, the limits, the possibilities, green consumption, those sorts of things. We think in terms of networks and connections and linkages, right? Agency is structure, that's quite binary, but we want to think about how those things are related. And in the first instance, at least for me, we want to explore these issues and questions of power. Who has power? How does it work? How is it related? How is it transferred? And so for me, this is about the kind of power to frame, right? To tell us what are the problems, right, around sustainability and environment. What are the solutions? Who are the people and how do we perform these solutions? That's really what I'm interested in the context of thinking about sustainability from a critical perspective. And we want to look to make impacts on the real world. Okay, so how does some of this ties into my sort of approach to critical sustainability studies, as we might call it? I'm going to diagram it for you. There's a pyramid. We start with practices. We've talked about practices today. These are incredibly important for us to think about. How do people practice everyday life? How do they practice sustainability and unsustainability? Materialities, the materialities that go into those things. So for example, we talk about washing our clothes, right? Trying to get us to wash our clothes on 30, right? Do we actually do it and practice it down there? And the materialities that go into perhaps making the clothing washing machine, how much water is used. So for example, maybe we wash on 30, but we wash 15 times a day, right? So let's start to think about those things. And then the cultural politics that go along with that. What are the kind of discourses and narratives in the media about what to do, how to do it, and in particular, the ways that consumption and green consumption has really come to the fore when we talk about what it is we're supposed to do to create sustainable situations. My 5 areas of work, I'm interested in food, humanitarianism, how do we engage with others, whether that be locally or say in Africa and other places, environment, fashion a little bit, not much, I'm getting into it a little bit more, but technologies as well. So for example, trying to think about, okay, everybody's been told to change our lights to LED light bulbs. Well, actually, where do they come from? It's quite polluting to produce LED light bulbs, but we might reduce our energy consumption, all the way to thinking about the role of Web 2.0, change.org, online petitions, other sorts of environments around which we engage with sustainability now through the internet, for example. Critical sustainability studies, and then 4 other things that I'm really interested in. Thinking about the body and the role of the body in sustainability practice, engagement, thinking, the role between bodily actions around fashion, what we wear, how we wear it, and then how bodies are used in the media to promote certain things. Relationships amongst all of these, cultural politics, practices, and materialities. Questions about networks, where do things come from? And then there's that issue about power. So trying to tie all of these things together to think about sustainability in a critical manner. So my current project, little audience participation, right? So how have you and society more broadly in the last decade or so come to learn about and understand the following issues? Climate change and other environmental issues. How have you learned about how have you learned about climate change?
Al Gore.
Okay, Al Gore, exactly, right? How have you learned about poverty in poorest countries of the world? Oxfam, okay? They have a large media presence. What's in your food and how to cook and how to eat healthy? Okay, right? We're all heading on the, you guys are answering, this is perfect. You're not a plant, this is perfect, right? So what to wear to promote workers' rights and save the environment, right? So what's the point? We'll learn through media, okay? So I'm interested in thinking about the role of media in these sorts of environments. But more specifically, more recently, there's been a rise in a series of kind of key figures in the media with particularly elevated voices on these topics. There they are, celebrities, right? So to prove my point, who's the face of the environment? Leonardo DiCaprio. This is the cover of one of 3 green issues in Vanity Fair. The Governor, right? I'm not going to do the accents, all right? So there he is at the Copenhagen, climate event. This is really interesting. Years of Living Dangerously. Has anybody heard of this? This is a program in the United States shown on Showtime. 10-hour programs around climate change. It's post-science in the fact that they're not debating about the science, whether or not it's happening. It's about the kind of impacts of climate change on the ground, all fronted by celebrities. There's Jessica Alba. We get Han Solo, right, going to Indonesia to talk about deforestation and climate change. We even get Lily Cole, who's apparently some quadruple first in ancient history from Cambridge. She's really smart. She's also the face of the environment, right? So she's for The Guardian, she writes about climate change, model, celebrity, movie star, etc. Humanitarianism. There's the sexiest man alive leaving the White House after talking to Obama about Darfur. This man needs no introduction. There's the halo, right? So saving the planet, saving Africa, those sorts of things. We get Matt Damon, right? So he's got at water.org. Here he is getting an award at the World Economic Forum in Davos, which is the who's who of global capitalism, right? They love him because it's about micro-enterprise, it's small scale, it's more capitalism, all that sort of stuff, right? I love this. Can this man save this girl? Wow, you can do a lot with that. Could write a dissertation on that. Anyway, Comic Relief and Children in Need, right? There's David Tennant. That is one of the most watched little snippets for children in need. They play it year on year because they're able to tell as soon as it shows how much money comes in, so they know which celebrities to show over and over and over again on the show, on the night. It's really fascinating. Even One Direction's in 1D. There they are, right? So much so that we can draw a map of Africa by what celebrities go where, right? So all sorts of different interesting relationships around that. Food, there's Matt Damon's buddy. I can never remember his name. That's all I remember. These 2 guys, right? So they're involved in hunger, questions about food security. We get, the former Beatle rapping about Meatless Mondays. You have to go watch it. It's brilliant. Right? Meatless Mondays. And then, of course, our own homegrown celebrity chefs. There's Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall. There's the fish fight, right? Fascinating program. 3 years of the fish fight. 4 years almost. So it resonates a lot. Then, of course, the new one about sugar, and there he is with his superfoods. And fashion, right? So we get, where are my notes? I can't remember who this woman is, but there she is on the Oscars, right? It's Gina Rodriguez, who is wearing peace silk, if you didn't know that. That is silk that is harvested only after the silk moth breaks out of its cocoon. There's a couple other people. There's Lily Cole. She's got a sustainable fashion line. We've got Olivia Wilde, who does conscious consumerism, conscious capitalism. This is stuff that's made in India with young women, so they stay in education. She's got other products as well. And then we've got Vivienne Westwood. Right? It's London Fashion Week. Is it last week? This week? Yeah. So there she was. She's talking about climate change, all those sorts of things. So it's embedded in the fashion world as well. If you can tell me what this guy does, let me know. We've got a project we can do together. But there he is, right? He's in the media. Okay, so my project is about celebrities and politics. So tied into the academic work, Joe Littler, right, has said that charity is now part of the everyday job description of celebrities. Rojek calls them big citizens who now make up the celebritariat. I like to think of it as this. We've now entered the Celebricene, right? The Anthropocene, Celebricene, right? Populated by a new species known as Celebritus politicus. Yes, well, a little bit of wordplay today. Yeah, so media and celebrity governance regimes, these are the sorts of things I'm interested in. So a set of questions. Why celebrities at this particular moment? How do they do what they do? What are their impacts on knowledge, sort of public pedagogies, teaching the public about certain things or not? And then think about materialities and practices and what are the relationships between those and celebrities. What, how, and why of the power of carrying sustainable celebrities to govern our knowledge and sustainable behaviors. So what sort of work do celebrities do on audiences and in society more broadly? Right, Ian Cook Light, I'm following the media, right, here I am. So in this project we've got two parts of it. It's tied into a PhD that Christine Barnes, one of my students who just finished, she worked around food, she worked around humanitarianism. So with the food aspect, we looked into celebrity chefs and other food TV programs, questions about healthy eating, food culture, and food politics. The part about humanitarianism, which I'm not going to talk about today, was about comic relief and children in need. This is about knowledge, connections, affects, and behaviors, and donations as well. We tried to follow the production, consumption, and use of the media. So it kind of looks like that. There's the production from a number of different angles, right? So this sort of media being produced in a number of different ways. You can think about a number of different types of food programs, for example, consumed by a range of different people. And then a number of different uses by different people. The core aspect, we did an audience survey. So we did about 600 people. There's some of the demographics of the various people. You just have a look there. Focus groups are on the way, and we've done a few interviews with some of the food media types. So she did some work with Jamie's people and Hugh's people, etc. So these are the sets of questions we were interested in. People's awareness of chefs in the programs, how and where they get information on food more broadly, reasons for watching the chefs in the programs, kind of affects and effects of chefs and programs, and then chefs and politics. So awareness of chefs and programs. In summary, people were very aware about Jamie. Jamie was the most familiar chef. The most watched shows, interestingly enough, were MasterChef, and then Jamie's 30-minute meals. This is a little dated. And then chefs were engaged through television and cookbooks, and television by far was the top. Now, how and where do you get information about food and not the trust part? I left that out for today. But where do you get food information about your food? Because we want to know where it fit. Where did celebrity chefs fit and the TV programs fit on a spectrum of different places that people looked for information about food? What do you think was number one? What did people? Internet. Internet. Nope.
Packages.
Nope.
Family.
Huh?
Family.
Yep. Exactly. Friends and family. Where do you regularly look for food or information about food, what and how to eat? Friends and family was top. Food labels next. Very good. Internet. Excellent. Chefs down at 30%. This is the total. This is percentage of all the answers from across the whole survey. Food, TV, and programs down at the bottom. Reasons for watching the chefs and the programs. For the shows you regularly watch, please tell us why. Why do you think people watch these things? Exactly. Entertainment. 75% watch for entertainment. 50% serendipity. It's happened to be on. There was Jamie. Right? And then the rest going down below 50%. Interest in food and cooking. That's interesting. They already have an interest in food, and that'll come back in a second. And then looking for information about food. Very few people doing that. So affects, so the relationships between people and food through the chefs and the effects on their behavior. Do you care more about what you or how you eat as a result of watching a particular celebrity chef? No. Part of the thing I think we're finding is that people already have an interest in food, then they go to food television. Okay? That's what we're finding, I think, through this. I'm not going to read through that. How has your behavior around food changed as a result of watching celebrity chef-fronted programs? 61% encourage you to cook more. 36%, so drops off a lot. Encourage you to eat less processed food and ready meals. And then all the way down to the bottom, change the places you shop, encourage you to eat out more actually. But 61% encourage you to cook more. So it gets into people's minds to do more about cooking. Chefs and politics. Do you think chefs should be doing more than teaching people how to cook? Should they be talking about food and food politics and the food we eat? Yes, actually, 52%. Okay? 27% maybe. So the opinion was divided between those who think celebrity chefs have a responsibility to those who think down under 3, they shouldn't be doing anything except cooking, if that. Okay. Moving on, what do you think motivates chefs to participate in food politics? This is really interesting. 84%, they have a personal concern over an issue. So they're concerned about something. 73% as a way to raise their public profile. 55% as a way for them to expand their brand. 55% to be seen to be giving back and doing more than just cooking. So there's interesting relationships between the concern and actually raising their profile. And then finally, what characteristics do you think are important in allowing chefs to speak out on food issues? 58% a genuine interest or a concern. 49% knowledgeable. 48% expertise. And then this one, I love this down at the bottom, entertaining, 3%. But people watch them for entertainment. But they don't have to be entertaining. I don't know, it's interesting. Contradictions. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to go through my analysis. Who and what is doing this work? Right, so awareness of chefs and programs is high, with Jamie Oliver far and away the most mentioned chef. Yet they are not the kind of go-to source for information, nor the most trusted. Instead, this is friends and family. So the kind of real social relationships are just as or more important than the kind of parasocial relationships we have with chefs on television. Chefs and TV programs are a part of a kind of multiple repertoires of where we get information about food. What work is being done, entertainment or serendipitous watching, but it's complex and contingent. So the majority claim not to care more about what or how they eat, but they also claim that chefs encourage them to cook and think more about what they eat and eat less processed food or ready meals. We need to parse more of this as we go through it. And what about the chefs themselves? They're concerned personally, but is also about their profile and brand. Culinary capital kind of comes from a genuine interest, knowledge, and expertise. But chefs are not a replacement for other sources of information. Credibility is dependent on particular chefs and the issue itself. So one of the things that we think we're finding is what we're calling these kind of moments of possibility that these television programs give to people. Provide information, you can take it up, or you don't have to. You can engage with it, or you don't have to. Okay? It's not a one-to-one, you show it, people immediately go, I'm going to go cook that, right? So we know that. And we know this now because we have the data. So chefs create a kind of generic moment of possibility. Audiences can take it up, they can resist it, and the knowledge and the ideas of the chefs. These moments reinforce knowledge and behavior in audiences across a number of different vectors. So the ability to kind of take more personal and social responsibility, and the responsibility for cooking for yourself or your family, and also political possibility. One of parts of Hugh's fish fight was to get people to go into Sainsbury's and say, I want a sustainable fish. Right? So there's political possibilities that go along with these programs. And these illustrate how chefs and food TV is a kind of form of soft power that suggests, cajoles, urges new old forms of food self-governance. So take away some broader points, and I'll summarize. The information deficit model here doesn't work, right? It's the idea that we provide people information about sustainability, what to buy. It doesn't work, right? Or we provide them information about what to cook. It doesn't work, right? This idea of just add the celebrity and stir. Right? So we need to think about these everyday practices and engagements. And the question for me are, what are the direct linkages between sustainable media, sustainable behaviors, including consumption? And how do we make those work? So sustainable celebrities and media provide a kind of context, but only one. And what consumer and society does with this is complex and important to understand. So these engagements will be different for food versus fashion, I think. I think there are differences between food and fashion that we haven't yet kind of brought out, I think. Eating is different than wearing. Yeah? So we might think about a project on the role of kind of the media influence of sustainable fashion programs. Are there such things? I don't know. Is there a possibility for that? Question for me, what allows people to be sustainable? What allows them to be sustainable? Not how are they sustainable, what allows them to be sustainable? So we need to think about the psychologies, but also the socioeconomic structures, the media connections. This is about lifestyle and livelihood making and doing, and not just market making. And I really want us to try and think and be critical about this idea that I've started to play with called I-sustainability, right? iPod, iPad, you got it, right? Okay. Playing with a little more few words, right? It's not the only game in town. Individualized choice is a kind of means, but not an end in and of itself. And we need to stick with that. So what are civil society, radical democracy, anti-austerity social movements outside of green consumerism, and how can we connect those back up? My last point, I think we must remain critical of green capitalism or kind of health consumerism and the media that surrounds it. And that's it.